I move that we accept and approve the minutes from last meeting. Excellent.
Not all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you so much. And Kelly, thank you for an excellent job. Thanks, meeting.
Thanks.
So for the rest of the meeting, I tried to sort of consolidate what I thought needed to be done next. The first is that, we never did approve the workflow. Cathy had given us this version. I'll remember this one. And then when we had the presentation from, Maureen last month, they sort of had in their presentation another really just clean, workflow. And so I don't know if we want to discuss and approve this, or if we just want to say, we're gonna take what was in her presentation. And I can try to pull it up if we want to do that.
Actually, we take a look at it. I mean,
Take a look at
we
it.
go
Okay.
into this, but then we moved on.
Now that I offered, the question is, how do I get that on here?
You can share the screen. There should be a little toolbar at the bottom. I think if you maximize the zoom, yeah, and then if you have the presentation open,
This is the township. I don't get it.
that's why. Yeah.
Is there?
I wonder if you can log into your email on this computer. You probably could. Do you have it in an email where you could log in or send it to yourself from your phone and then open it up on the computer?
How about if we print that?
Yeah, I can print it.
Because that might be easier than we try to figure that out. Let's see. Um, Yeah, do you have it or you want me to? Okay, sure. And I'm happy to send this around, I think I don't have. It's essentially the same thing, but if people wanted to, we had never approved it. We were planning on approving it or discussing it last time. But then Maureen's presentation took a while, so we didn't get to this. And Cathy worked hard on it to capture it. I'm sure it's fine. We just have an alternative that we could also use. So if we want to. Six of us. like if we were going to. Any suggestions for changes to that? Mandate that. This should be relatively quick. I would sort of encourage us not to go too bogged down. But look at it, make sure it says the same thing. And then if one is more visually going to. I'm hoping we'll get to some of the discussions about, what we want to start doing next year. I'm confident in that.
And my daughter's in. Oh my God, and with a dog and a grand dog. Vacuumed last night. And the house is back. Yes, I don't know what's better, getting them in or getting them home. My oldest is in Charlotte with a dog, and my little one is just in Center City in grad school. But having all, is it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all, we're new empty nesters in my house. It's only been a couple years, so I'm still getting used to the cycle, and it's just awfully quiet when they're gone. At the moment, I still like that, but I do have a wife. She's home too, but we coexist very quietly. But
Just went over to my family friends. That's about it. We didn't get much. And it's good to have some days off to share. Yes. So I was looking at the PowerPoint and I don't see a full layout. Here's this stuff. Well, look at it. Well, this is Cathy's, and I do have the back. Yeah, one of the slides she showed that we should have that did have. Actually, the same information. It didn't look exactly like. And we can just use this if we like this, and it doesn't have to be a big discussion.
does Cathy have a preference?
She did not say. She tried to capture it, so. It's possible, yeah, sometimes, so you gotta take one of those and have some.
It's 4 pieces of paper, 7 slides, and they're double sided. Yep.
Thank you.
Oh. Four, it's back.
Yeah, they're double sided. So it's like, and then
So it may be. Okay, we have probably first page.
the first page is process, timeline, and outcomes. Starts with inquiry, complaint, notification.
So in this one, so it starts out just defining the difference between the inquiry and then the complaint, but you see like at the bottom of the complaint, it says basically. The complaint have to be presented to the AHRC within 10 days of us receiving it. And then, the notification, we have to provide an assessment of the complaint within 30 days. So that's the first part of the. It's not quite as detailed as Cathy's is, like, right, because Cathy's is identified that the township liaison assesses And either if it's a minor claim, gives it to me. Do we need legal counsel? So there is some more detail, Cathy, around what happens before we even get into notification. Is it back front?
Yeah, so it'll be like that, and then that's the second page. And then that's the second page.
The next page then says notification assessment deferred to another agency or handle it internally. I don't know that we really. We should read that. And then what goes on after that is what happens after we review the case. And I think, so I'm probably saying it. But the only other part that really has time stamped in it, which is what I think we're really trying to capture, the word missing things, is the last, well, I don't know if this is the last one or not. The one that says what the fact findings of those is. What's the number here? You got a number of it? No, we don't get them. Yeah, and this one, it says the bar down the left side, it says fact finding conference, because that one really, speaks to 30 days after an answer is received, or 60 days if there's no answer. And what the meeting is with two agencies, let's see, Cathy has that. Yes, Cathy has that, we send a response, we have, if we don't get anything back, from the other party, we have 60 days for a verified conference, if we receive paperwork. So,
So are we looking at them to decide which one we like better?
whether, that they say the same thing.
They're very, yeah,
It's correct.
right.
That, to me, this is one thing that explains all the timeline, so
Mhm.
like this, now that I'm looking at it more carefully, this would be harder to capture. But if the question is, if there's anything in here that you like to add to this? Right.
I'm satisfied with Kathy's. And
Too, but I think Amanda's point is kind
Yeah.
of, it, so let's.
Well-
Sure that's- So that part is, this part where the township liaison has 10 days to send it to us is something we have to do. Within 10 days of receipt. Right? So I think that would have to be a yellow box. Where it says minor, can I just ask what do you mean by minor? Just
where
on Cathy's right here, should the word minor, maybe she means like a minor.
no, I see, in the diamond shaped box.
If it's a minor issue.
Yeah, I think she means an issue that doesn't rise to the level of requiring a complaint.
Mhm.
An inquiry or a. Right, because minor issue is not the line where you still. So I don't see that in. Okay, so with your permission, I recommend that we will say if it's an inquiry or a complaint.
Are you
Yeah, I think so.
making a motion to?
No, I'm headed. Well,
Got it.
when we're ready, so we could say we want to accept this with these changes.
Okay.
And then the word minor would go away. And what we put there is within 10 days. That's only if it's a complaint.
Yeah, the 10 days is the period of time
Oh,
it takes for us to get the complaint once it's submitted.
is the triangle to the left. So if it's an inquiry, it can just go to the chair. If it's a complaint, no legal counsel needed, then it's sent to the entire commission within 10 days. Um. It's a piece of nitpicky, but given what happened last time where we consulted our attorney to evaluate our jurisdiction, and then we weren't so sure that would we keep that in there, like, we have to receive it within 10 days, no matter what, that's in the mandate, I believe.
There is a difference in the sense of the entire commission, and this one says two members of the commission. Well, can also back by,
Well, that's because I think we send it there, but the conference only needs to have 2 people in it, because we might not be able to get everybody together to have that conference, but the fact finding conference is way later. Right? Fact finding conference doesn't happen until.
So my
Get
question is-
response and everything.
So that's basically has to be right in the decision box within 10 days. No matter which direction it
It
goes,
has
if it
to
goes to
go-
the left or the right,
It has to go to.
It has-
within
it has to
10 days.
move out of that box within 10 days. But before it's meant for, we would say, township liaison, it's actually minor. And then the liaison decides whether a legal consult is needed or no legal consult is needed. That's putting the decision burden on the township
Correct.
liaison. Really, that's our responsibility. So I think it has to leave the diamond box, the decision box within 10 days. It comes to the commission, we look at it, and in our opinion, we decide whether it's a slam dunk or we need to ask the attorneys. And basically it gets to the point too, when nobody answered the question last, I came away from the last meeting, I told everybody who worked, it's like, yeah, basically, we have no jurisdiction to do anything the way the ordinance is read right now. And I think you tried to tease it out of John, like, what's the supervisor's position? Do they want us out there staking new ground? Or do they just want us to be here so we could say we have an HRC?
So
And you never really said it, and we never really asked it that way, but I think that was a big question, like.
So I'm gonna ask you to hold that thought, because that is a big question. And I think we definitely need to spend some time, that's why. Do we need amendments? Do we need, different things we wanna suggest, how we view ourselves, like, that should be what we spend most of the meeting talking about. I'm a little focused on just, I want to get this stupid thing done, no offense. But 100% that is what I hope we.
I think that decision box should be okay, if it's just an inquiry where someone's going, is this something that's actually, I'm not trying to pretend I'm an attorney. And they send it to you and you look at it and you go, yeah, this is really, really tough. And then from that box, you would pass it back to the entire commission. Within 10 days, it all has to happen. Or if it's coming to township liaison goes, they filed a formal complaint. They said, I don't want an inquiry form, here's the complaint. In 10 days, we get it, we look at it, and we either make the decision it's a slam dunk, or we ask, at that point, we pass it to the township attorney, who looks at it and reviews it in a legal sort of way. So we still satisfied the 10 days requirement of moving on it once it showed up at the township. Now, once we give it to the township attorney, and they're busy doing other things, I don't think we have the, we can't establish a timeline. They're gonna be doing other things, but we've done the first 10 days thing moving. Now, somewhere at the same time, I think the 30 days clock also starts ticking if it was in fact a complaint that was filed, the 60 day time. So those times all happen in, the clocks all start at the same time, and they're running to different destinations.
So you've pointed out a couple of good things, which is, if I can kind of try to capture that from the diamonds with the township liaison, that person doesn't need to assess anything really. They need to just send it to the chair, right? And then the chair says, oh, this is an inquiry, we could just address this here, it's not, like, we don't need to pursue further, or, hey, do I need an attorney? Cause this is really, I have no idea, or it can go right to the commission. And this whole thing has 10 days to go from the township liaison receiving it to the commission. This has 10 days time.
But if it's a complaint, also the 30-day clock, so. the 30
That 30-day clock starts from service of the complaint.
Right, but also we have the 10-day time.
We've 10 days to get it from the township liaison. Then we have to serve it on the employer.
Okay, so.
They have 30 days to respond.
Okay, so we get 10 days for us to see it.
No, there's 10 days for us to receive it from the liaison.
Yeah.
We should serve it right away. Shouldn't be holding on to it very long. And then they have 30 days to respond.
I think that
Yeah.
this whole top section has to be adjusted, and then the bottom half looks okay to me.
Well, we have within 30 days on here 2 times, and I'm not sure if that's correct. Based off of what you're saying, because received complaint, and then we have to send out responses within 30 days. 30 days.
That's
Is that what you're saying? So
30 days, that's a separate. The second 30 days on this sheet is for scheduling the fact-finding conference.
Get paperwork like on the second day. From the,
Not everyone waits 30 days, right?
if on the second day, after notifying them, they send us that paperwork, we have 30 days to schedule the conference from there. If we never receive paperwork, we give them 30 days to send it to us, then we have another 30 days to schedule.
But if, let's say we get it within the 10 days and we're all on vacation, how long do we have before we have to send the complaint to
I
the
mean,
defendant?
even without you, like, if everybody was on vacation, I, within 10 days, would have to send out to the receiving party that, you know, this complaint has been filed. We're not doing anything
Right.
until we get to the fact finding conference,
Right.
except for doing whatever comes in as it's
So someone shows up on day 1 with a complaint.
in.
You have to see it, we have to see it within 10 days.
Yes.
And then at that point, we send it out immediately to the defendant.
Yes.
Okay, what if we don't? What if we take 20 days before we send it out?
And then we create a problem with our ordinance because it has unfortunately a strict deadline for how long it's supposed to take for us to schedule a fact finding. And within that time, there's also a deadline to respond to the complaint. So we really have to do these things
I said these
pretty promptly.
These times
But-
all running parallel.
But can I suggest that these flowcharts are meant, I think, as a good faith explanation? Anytime we get anything, we should be looking at our ordinance. And with respect to the folks that are, you know, interested in the outcome, we should be communicating the deadlines so that we're not saying, hey, look at our flow chart. We're saying,
I understand it
Yeah.
myself, but-
well, we're saying, hey, we received the complaint on January 1st. The ordinance gives you 30 days to respond. We'll expect your answer on or before the 31st so that it's really clear. And I think the more we add to these things, it's like, it's right. It gets indecipherable.
Because we receive a complaint. And then it says we have 30 days to send a response to both parties. So that's a long time. So that's what
Yeah, so we get the complaint on the 1st.
Paul was saying,
What you
like,
say-
if we don't send anything to them. I
think that-
Still within.
I think what she meant by response to both parties is that the employer sends the response to us and the complainant. Yes.
5%. when they're there as well. I think it's 30 days for us to make a decision. You said
Whether we
want
want
to
to
have 30 days more to.
We're not assessing whether it has merit enough, just that we're going to hear it too.
I think we're assessing whether it is properly before us. It's whether it's something we can decide because it has to do with something with an ordinance, right?
The complaint shows up on January 1st. Not gonna go out to the employer on January 1st, more than likely.
Right.
So we get it on January 1st. We have 30 days to look at it, process it, whatever, and then, well, but I'm just
Yes,
worst case.
correct.
So we have 30 days to look at it. At the end of that 30th day, we send it to the employer.
to both of them, saying we are going to. hear
Right,
this.
so, so the employer now has 30 days to make his response and get it back. So we're already up to 60 days at that point. Let's see,
Correct.
okay.
So we have 30 days, then they have 30 days. But if we decided we didn't have jurisdiction, well, then all this is for naught, because there's nothing in our mandate about how we have to communicate if we don't.
I think just like, it's just a matter
Right.
of politeness, we would respond to complaining and go, sorry, we don't have jurisdiction.
So I think we're not gonna be ready to vote on this because it needs to be drafted. Cathy, this is Cathy's document. I'll have to give it to her, explain all of this to her. Are there any other comments or changes that we want? That help us. Yeah, so you got to say something.
I mean, yes, I think we ought to table that. I mean, certainly until Kathy's here, but I think there's more important policy issues for us to talk about.
It is not.
Yeah.
Into that, so we will delay that till next time, hopefully we can get it cleaned up and we'll keep coming back to it. But I think each time we discuss it, we are getting more clarity about what timeframes are, should we ever actually get it. All right, thank you all for your time on that. So now let's go to the business. So, I'll kick off the discussion about whether we need to. How we want to do it, well, maybe we just want to do a takeaway from last meeting, as it sounds like. It sounds like you have very definitive perception of, you know.
That we can't, there's nothing we can do. You know, the Pennsylvania HRC basically don't want to really do anything. Because they, you know, they have the 4-person threshold. All right, our ordinance says we can't do anything more than what is the Pennsylvania HRC ordinance says. We
So-
can act 1 or 2.
It doesn't say that.
Okay.
It does not say, it could not say that anymore. It specifically empowers us to act in cases involving this township, irrespective of the number of employees. And irrespective of whether the Human Relations Commission is also acting. So what you heard last time was a dialogue about whether, notwithstanding what's clear in the ordinance, whether there is a limitation imposed by law. And what we discussed was that although some courts have suggested that there may be such a limitation, there's no decision by any court finding that. So then we got, and you mentioned this earlier, so then we got to, I think, the more practical question, which is, what does the Board of Commissioners want us to do? Do you want us to enforce the ordinance you passed? Or do you want us to self-censor, which, you know, is what I think our solicitor feels we should do. And I mean, that was my take on the way they were sort of nudging us to avoiding getting involved. It's not what our ordinance says. And I posed that question, you know, I think you mentioned earlier tonight that it was sort of an unasked question. I asked the question twice.
Maybe it was an unanswered question.
I agree. And you know, we don't need an answer just because I asked doesn't mean I'm entitled to an answer. But I think we should be deciding whether we want to, well, I'll speak for myself. If I'm on this board, and there's an ordinance,
Hmm.
I'm going to act to enforce that ordinance as I read it, unless I'm told otherwise. So,
So what I was thinking
So-
about, it's the section 12.5,
Okay.
paragraph 5. Board of Supervisors hereby, and again, I'm not challenging you, I'm asking you to explain this, I understand. The Board of Supervisors hereby grants to the township, blah, blah, provided that those powers shall not exceed those exercised by the Pennsylvania Human Rights.
where are you?
It's, just that section 12-5, Establishment of Human Relations Commission, paragraph number 5.
Paragraph number 5. Right, so that language, so that language provided that it does not exceed is not only in our ordinance, it's also in the statute, which gives the Human Relations Commission, which allows the Human Relations Commission to allow townships to create these ordinances.
When
So-
shall not exceed, I thought that meant where the PRC says 4 employees minimum, we say 2.
Well, where does it say that? I mean, it's, that was a rhetorical question. It doesn't say that. It says what you read.
Hmm.
And then every township, including this one, that has passed an ordinance, has passed this ordinance
Right.
with the Human Relations Commission's input.
Mhm.
So the idea that they didn't notice that is a little strange. Here, to me, so we have an ordinance that doesn't have a jurisdictional number of employee limit. That's clear.
Right.
The Human Relations Commission knows that. That's clear. Whether it and we have, and our township has exceeded its power is a question I guess a court might answer.
Mhm.
I cited and read, to our solicitors, a case in which the court specifically mentioned this is an unanswered question and decided not to answer it. Don't seem to be in a rush to rule on this issue. There may be a reason why. Not a lot of people are filing these. There really aren't a lot of cases where this, maybe this appellate court, the Commonwealth Court doesn't think this warrants its time. I don't know. But I think the harder question is one which is reflected in the flow chart that our solicitors did, which I don't think is correct. And that's where it said, should we be deferring to the Human Relations Commission if in matters in which they have jurisdiction? And I have an answer to that as well for me, which is no, not unless, I mean, I think in fairness, if someone files in the Human Relations Commission, in the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission and the Lower Makefield Township Human Relations Commission, we in good faith should say, you could choose one or the other, but not both. But we shouldn't be saying, we shouldn't be telling them, no, you have to go there. We have an ordinance that protects our residents. If we don't enforce that, despite the fact that we took an oath to enforce it, then we're not doing the right thing. And in my mind, if the commissioners of the township, there's no reason to believe this, by the way, but if they're second guessing whether they want us to do this, they should be telling us that, not our solicitors.
The whole, why I think the top of the workflow as well. Because I don't think it goes, the first order of business is, we need a legal counsel to tell us we have jurisdiction. Unless we have a question about that, and if we want their input on it.
Right. Well, I think we saw an area where an opinion can really overtake our role. I think in fairness, most of the time it's just simply, it should simply be, here, we got this. And so the checklist ought to be, well, is it Lower Makefield Township? Is it, one of the protected classes? Is there anything, is there any red flag? No? All right. Have at it.
Challenge, obviously it was challenging. There was no clear answer to it. When we asked, I mean, it's not really, as your pointed out, this sort of thing had not yet been decided. Plus we now get into this whole question of the employer is not local and this. So we got an answer. The answer was maybe not, in retrospect, the answer we were comfortable with. And so I think we can create the timeline to reflect what we want. In the meantime, I took the comments as giving us more authority, not less. So my perception was different, because what I heard in the room was, we're just here to advise you, but you have a mandate, and you can go back if you need clarification of your mandate. We could ask the board to provide that clarification for us, or we could say, we don't really want to ask you to weigh on that. We just want to ask you, like, should pregnancy be called out? And we'll just do.
Well, yeah,
what you do.
And so, yeah, then we get rid of this upper right corner of the flow chart. Every complaint comes to us. We just look at it in good faith, we act on it. And we wait for the township, and he's obviously gonna not like our decision, and
Well, maybe.
well, let's assume the worst case where they don't like it and they institute some kind of lawsuit. And the supervisors now have to defend, because I'm not a lawyer, I'm not. So somehow the township gets in hot water, whatever reason. Somebody hires a lawyer, they're gonna sue the township, they say the Human Relations Commission is totally ridiculous, so they hire a lawyer and file a lawsuit. So now the township probably has to defend or spend some money to answer that. Are they gonna come to us and go, guys, Human Relations Commission, calm down, look at all the trouble you caused us? Or they're gonna say, you're doing a good job, you're stirring the pot. That's. Yeah, how much, are they just paying lip service to it, or do they really want us
I
to?
don't think creating, my impression is, you don't create commissions for lip service. It takes a lot of work.
Oh, well,
So
I don't know.
they-
That's
it
'cause-
happened,
yeah.
You know how many times Cathy had to go, like.
Oh, yeah, she told us all about it. But
you
it's-
know,
I didn't get a warm feeling about how much they wanted for us to push it.
No, they want us, I mean,
Oh, by them, I meant the board of supervisors, I was pointing to John.
Not sure, I felt John was open for us
Okay.
to. Well,
That wasn't my experience. In the very first meeting we had, we asked, what was the motivation to have the
Mhm.
agency? And there really wasn't a strong word. Well, other people have done it. And there was no big issue or no champion. So I think we're not on their radar very much. And my experience watching them last month, anything we do to engage with them, just slow us down. Take longer, get more complicated. And I don't think it's worth it. I think it's better to get something going and not to fight with them on issues. They don't really seem to
you
have
mean
much
the
engagement.
attorney, not the commission.
Well, assuming there were, John's a nice fellow, but he's come and been helpful. But I don't see any motivation to do this from their perspective, particularly, except to have one.
well, there's a related issue, I think, which we're not ready to get to, but the related issue is probably, well, if we're not fielding complaints a lot and dealing with enforcing ordinance, what else can we do? And I think we all believe that there's some ideas and creativity that we ought to be putting that way. We may never get another complaint. There aren't a lot of these complaints, but I do think we should. Well, in this particular case, I do believe that somehow, some way, what might have been a complaint didn't get to us. And I don't think that's correct. And I say that when I first heard about this complaint, my initial thought was, oh, they already filed in Pennsylvania Human Relations Commissions. We should go find out whether they really want us or not. Because deferring to that agency is often a great idea. But it's really not the way our ordinance reads. And if someone says, no, I want my case in Bucks County, not in Harrisburg. I want my case to be decided by a judge who I elected. Who are we to say no? We have an ordinance that says that. So anyway, and we do not, I feel very strongly, we do not need to be amending this ordinance. It reads exactly the same as every other ordinance in this that I've read. I haven't read them all, but I've read many, and then they're essentially templated. And the idea that we could fix all the problems by amending ordinance, I don't agree. I think it's a question of policy. And, you know, I didn't have the same take I think you guys got from John last week. I thought he was silent. I didn't read anything into his silence. We have an ordinance. We should, in my view, be telling him, if he asks, we're going to enforce it unless you do something to tell us not to.
Taking my education in that paragraph 5 that I mentioned, when it says, that those powers shall not exceed those exercised by the Pennsylvania HRC. So.
And then-
The minimum of 4, and we have no minimum.
It doesn't, so you're reading that in, but, right.
That where the Pennsylvania has a minimum of 4, we have no minimum. That isn't doing that, exceeding the powers of the Pennsylvania HRC. That's not
how I read powers necessary to the execution of its duties. That they're talking about what power you need to enforce your law, not what violates your law.
But it goes on to say that they don't exceed the Pennsylvania HRC.
The powers, not jurisdiction, not definitions, powers. They're talking about powers like subpoena power, power to administer oaths, power to enter orders.
Okay.
That's how I read that.
Okay, that's what I understand. That's
and-
the question that you're educating.
Well, that's how I read it. And keep in mind, the people that wrote this, right, also wrote the definitions and the ordinance. So the idea, it's like they wrote this and that, but you're supposed to, when the principle of statutory construction and contract construction is you try and find a meaning that gives effect to all the terms, not the one that invalidates others, because people that wrote these things are smart and put a lot of time and effort into it. So that's how I read it.
Okay. I think I understand your point, where I was looking
and-
at too granular at that.
So just to stay in mind, the paragraphs that come right after the language you read are the procedural powers provisions.
Okay.
So that's how I read it.
Things such as the employee numbers or the actual protected classes, it's the subpoena powers and other powers that you're.
And the power to enter a binding order.
Like, we can't have a firing squad.
And right. That's correct. That would be a remedy, right? I agree that would be entering an order that was not something that is included within the powers of the Human Relations Commission. Punitive damages is a really good example, actually, because that's common, but not within the statute.
I think.
So that's my take.
So,
Well, since
But
you have said your opinion that you don't think there's anything that we should suggest to amend it, the only thing that did come up last time was specifically was about whether pregnancy needed to be spelled out. And I don't know if anyone has a feeling about that. That's different than us saying, we want you to rewrite your mandate to strengthen it. Because I agree with you, Stan, that I think that's like asking them to create a perfect document when even the state document. aren't perfect.
we have medical condition in the protected classes in some way, right? Do we have anything that pregnancy would lump into?
Then we have gender specific things.
Right here.
Where is that list?
Mental or physical disability? Well,
I don't know if
pregnancy
for
isn't a
pregnancy is
disability.
Um,
It's not a disability, but, you know. Would it get shoehorned into there? Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually doing a little research now, because I can tell you back in the early 90s, yes, it got shoehorned into sex discrimination. And now I'm looking to see how if and how they broke it out. Yeah. Yeah, so they broke it out in their regulations, not in the statute itself, and indicated that sex includes pregnancy status, childbirth status, breastfeeding status, gender identity. So, yeah. Well, that's not pregnancy. Yeah,
Here. What do we actually have? Here's our list.
Under discriminatory
here it is
acts in
too.
the definition.
Genetic information, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression. There's actually, oh boy, it's really. Sex. I don't think it's anywhere.
yeah. So, and that's what I was saying. It's also not in the Human Relations Act, although so you understand there are statutes and there are regulations. Okay? Statutes or laws are have the basic framework of the law. Regulations are then passed in order to add and embellish on what is meant. So the way the Human Relations Commission took care of covering pregnancy discrimination was to define it as a type of sex discrimination, which is what I remembered from many, many years ago. No, they're just saying that sex discrimination on the basis of sex, it covers firing someone because they got pregnant. Because that said, I would not be adverse to us, if we were going to ask for any amendments, that seems to be one that would be reasonable to ask for, the add pregnancy status to our definition, which is in section 12-2. But, again, if we are exercising our powers to the extent the Human Relations Commission has awarded them, we already have that power because it's covered under sex, under discrimination on the basis of sex.
So we can pick or choose whether we want to give a commission a request to amend it or to come back to us saying that.
Or maybe just ask them to confirm that that's within the statute. I don't know. I don't know how'd it come up? I mean, just that wasn't included. Yeah.
And the thing I anticipate is if we go back and ask the commission that, they're probably gonna go ask Maureen. So if that, I guess I'm starting to think, but let's just go about our business. But I'm open to anyone else's opinion on that.
Yeah, that could be one of those kind of things where someone brings a case to us, they're saying I was discriminated against because of pregnancy, not explicitly in the ordinance, we decide to act on it, and this might cause a lawsuit, which causes the township to have to spend money. That's the case where we see right there how much, faith or energy they want to put into it. So I don't think we need the amendment, we would just act on it.
So, and to be clear, if someone brought a case and said, I was fired because I'm pregnant, the way I think we would handle that would be to say, okay, well, that's covered under our ordinance because that's discrimination on the basis of your sex. And regulation, 41-206 says the term sex as used in the PHRA includes pregnancy. So I don't think it's a tough one. I think that's a pretty easy one on that particular issue. So,
Does anyone feel otherwise? Otherwise, I think we're gonna. All right. Who knew? Because I don't know, this is really complicated. All right, so that brings us to new business 3, identifying target groups, potential educational offerings for 20 plays. Which I feel like we started talking about this about 6 months ago, maybe almost a year ago. And so would anyone like to open the floor with their thoughts on what you would like to see us do? of groups you think we should get in front of? I mean, it doesn't have to be an exhausting list, like, we want to try to identify a few potential opportunities for education.
Well, if I recall that initial brainstorm, we were talking about schools on the one hand. We're also talking about, for lack of a better term, like Chamber of Commerce type scenarios, because I think there might even be more interest from local employers than from potential employees to find out, how to comply with the law and how we might handle a situation.
Like we put our notice into the monthly or quarterly magazine that goes out, is there a naturally occurring some kind of platform where people come in and talk about these people issues in the community, in the township? It happens every year or 6 months?
Not that I'm familiar with, but public comment on non-agenda items is always an available time during the Board of Supervisors meetings, which happen twice a month. And there's the newsletter that goes out, and then I'm hoping in 2026, we're gonna start moving towards a more frequently reoccurring newsletter type idea. So that's on the horizon a little bit, just for more frequent communication. But as far as a town hall, I'm not.
I
Familiar.
shared that I went to the Bucks County meeting about 3 or 4 months ago. And there were a number of people there, but they were all insiders. There was no
Yeah.
community
what happens.
members.
I mean, I think you really have to go to the, we could, as Stan said, we could go to Pennsylvania High School and ask if they have like a community day, the table.
Mm.
We could go to, there are a couple of, extended care facilities in the township. We could, offer to do a little educational thing. Those tend to be attended a little bit better because the rest of the captive audience. And those could be around, age discrimination, things that people would be interested in.
Not much pregnancy there.
Well, there are employees. So, I mean, I would suggest we find just like two and just like give it a whirl, maybe something as simple as a bowling event. There is, stuff like Harvest Day, like those sorts of things. I was wondering, can the township take a table?
I don't know if there's a township specific table. I know there's the LMT Democrats, LMT Republicans, they have tables. That's political. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that could be an option. I believe maybe the fire marshal, like the Yardley Makefield Fire Company has a table, maybe the police. Yeah.
That is, Harvest Day is in Yardley, not in Albany. That's true. So we'll have to make sure people know the difference.
It also could be worth, it could be worth reaching out and engaging to members of the Environmental Advisory Council. They do a lot of outreach in the township. They engage our office to get it out there on social media and market it. It could be worth starting a conversation there just to see how they got involved and if they've done anything like that in the past, if they've gone to community days or local schools, colleges, because they do a lot of outreach and education on single-use plastics. They hold lectures on animal behavior. Throughout the year, they hold their styrofoam collection events. So there's different things that they do to engage the township for environmental stewarding. So having a conversation with them could be an option as well to get some insight. And that's one of the only committees that I know. Maybe the Parks and Rec Board. But yeah, they do them. Yeah.
They put on events, like I don't know what event we would put on, right? Like they could have a recycling event or a Slate Hill Cemetery event.
I just think would be helpful to find out what events are out there. And then the next step is, well, are we relevant to that event? But who's actually engaging the community and at what events it doesn't seem to be that obvious. It's actually even with regard to our school, because we don't even have like a township school. I meant the high school, right? And we might, I'm not sure. I guess that's another question, whether that's a subject for middle school, because they're not really in the workforce.
Well,
It's housing. Yeah.
well, why don't we, in the interest of time, since I feel like we've been having this particular brainstorm for a long time, why don't we each go home and try to brainstorm one place that we think would be reasonable, pursue it, follow your thought all the way through to actually calling someone to see if there'd be any interest, or if they have an event, like once a year event that we could. I mean, as an example, like you could go to a church that's in Lower Makefield Township and say, do you have any sort of education day or community day for your church members? And so the week, right? I think we're gonna probably have to draw it, but there's, well, like, I don't know. So that's everyone, each one of us, and we'll try to make it in Lower Makefield Township. And the last thing I have, I mean, I don't think there's any public comment. Anyone else before I go off this for the calendar for next year, does anyone have any other suggestion or want to make a recommendation for how we could identify those opportunities before we begin?
I also think that you could possibly go to just businesses in the township, maybe large businesses that employ a lot of people. My first thought is Wegmans. The police department hosted a coffee with a cop event, and they were able to get sponsored food and donuts and coffee, and they were there for an hour just outreaching with the community, people coming and going. They had a table there, and I think it was a great event. Chief Kelly has been very adamant on increasing visibility and trust with the police department. So that was one of his ways to do that. And I think that you could maybe do something just like that. And again, Wegmans came to my mind because where the table was, it's at the one entrance on, I think, the West End, and it's just huge. There's like a lot of room right there, and there was great communication, there was great people, it was a lot of traffic flow, and they got to know a lot of our police officers. So we could probably do something like that in a big environment like Wegmans.
On the east side,
On the,
geese side,
which side is that?
the
What?
Canada geese out.
Oh,
30,000 geese on the other side of the.
the side where there's the built-in dining room, and I walk in that side and get my bowl
Yeah, I think that's
twice a week.
if there's any interest, because that's a place where there are lots of members of the community zipping in and out. And is anyone going to stop and ask a question, or kind of probably if we set up there, we might get a good idea whether anyone cares because.
In Atlanta, I was an advisor to my daughter's diversity council. But it was a large high school. There's no high school. Pendle is not in this.
No.
township.
Pennsbury, yeah,
In Pennsbury.
it includes this township,
But there's multiple middle schools that have the
I mean, that doesn't mean that they, we should exclude them. Yeah.
Tests, and I mean, they have parents, they live in homes. They may have, parents who work or have problems with their jobs, and so schools aren't that.
There were also with the Wegmans, there's a lot of people who come from out of the township to shop there. I mean, that again, this is just a huge hub. So, and so you could actually reach even further than beyond the borders of LMT. But we could just educate. If this is simply an educational,
Newtown and
Yeah.
Langford have their own.
Oh, yeah, there you go. And educate people that,
So I'm mentioning those two because it seems to be the confluence. Although
Mhm.
I guess Wegmans is sitting inside our township.
Yeah.
It's on the bypass for a reason, right?
and they were very appreciative when that happened. There was a lot of good feedback from that event, so.
Offers or the giant, or I guess they feel like that's really the big draw.
Yeah, maybe that has to do with some sort of sponsorship. Maybe that was something behind the scenes. I'm not entirely sure.
I wholly support ShopRite and McCaffrey's, but Wegmans has a lot more room, and much more.
So next and last order of business is the 26th. Thank you, Kelly. That was a great suggestion. So everyone has homework to pursue one thing, one idea, to learn what kind of opportunities there might be with an organization of your choosing. So the last one is 2026 meeting dates. Kelly, we do have a monthly set. Is it gonna just continue into 26?
Yeah, as far as I know, there's no changes with the other commissions. It's the last Wednesday of each month.
So for there, we can start getting really busy with education, we can reconsider, but
Is it the fourth Wednesday or the last Wednesday?
probably for.
Fourth. I think it's the fourth.
Any other business?
And in the event anything changes, I will just send an email out to everybody.
So at our next meeting, we are going to review an updated workflow. And then we're gonna just we'll share our outcomes of our outreach, and if we have no other new business, and we'll commiserate about whether the Eagles are in the Eagle or not.
Looks like that next Wednesday's the 28th, the 4th of January 28th. Yep.
If there's nothing else, I will take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Mhm.